What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Inside the Shell podcast. If you're joining in and tuning in for the very first time, welcome. And if you're a regular listener, again, I welcome. I really appreciate you just being here. Every time I meet somebody in person that has listened to this podcast, or they're just a friend of mine, and they say, "Hey, man, love the podcasts," or something along those lines, it really keeps me going. Sometimes I post an episode and it doesn't track well, and I don't get a lot of pub from it, a lot of views from it, a lot of listens, just the fact that I get comments like that still, even with not a whole lot of big following yet, means the world. Thank you guys for just being here and listening. Really appreciate it. Honestly, I think I got a really good quote for you guys today. It hit me like a truck. I can't lie. So it's a little bit of a longer quote, but stick with me through it. This is from the book called What is Man by Mark Twain. I mentioned this in a previous podcast. I believe it was with CT when I was interviewing him. But honestly, I'm still reading it because I want to take my time with this one. It's a shorter read. It's only about 100 pages, but it's really good. And I think you just really need to slow down and take everything not at face value when you read it. And you really have to just let it sink in, because sometimes you come back and things hit you harder than you would expect them to. So here's the quote from that. Money has no maternal value. If you remove its spiritual value, nothing is left but dross. It is so with all things, little or big, majestic or trivial. There are no exceptions. Crowns, scepters, pennies, paste jewels, village, notoriety, worldwide fame, they have no maternal value. While they content the spirit, they are precious. When this fails, they are worthless. So the reason this quote hits me like a truck, like I said, because it flips the way we're taught to value things. We're told money matters, status matters, recognition matters. But this reminds us that none of those things mean anything on their own. Money isn't valuable because of the actual paper. It's value because of what it allows us to love, protect, experience. Take the people out of it, take the meaning out of it, and it's just numbers. And it's not just money, fame, power, titles, reputation. Without purpose, without spirit, they're empty. They look impressive, but they don't fulfill you. This is a reminder to check why we're chasing what we're actually chasing and we want to do in life. If the goal doesn't serve love, growth, or something greater than ego, it won't satisfy us in the end whatsoever. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from it, and I kind of wrote this down so I could get a good grasp on what it was trying to say, is in short, almost, it's like objects don't give life meaning. Meaning gives objects their value. And giving some context to this quote here, before he jumps into that quote, he explains a story about a man who has all this money, lives in a nice house with a big family, and he's just a really rich guy, right? And essentially, he loses all his family members. Now he's got nothing to do with his money. And he even says it's pointless. What's he going to do with all this money now that his kids are gone, his wife is gone? It's like money does not matter anymore to him. And I think that's so important. It's so important because we put so much value in money today. And yes, it is important. If you want to live and have a good sustaining life and sustain yourself, it's obviously going to be important, but it's not the number one thing that we need to be worrying about all the time. People are so greedy, and there are so many sins that go along with that, and it's hard to watch sometimes because people fall down the path of just greed, and they're money hungry, and that's what they feel that they are destined to do with their lives, is just constantly seek money. And I understand that. And honestly, sometimes I hate to admit it, I do that too. I always want to be working and make as much money as I can to go through school and do all these things I want to do with my life. I understand. But what we have to realize is money is just an object. The meaning behind the money, like if I choose to spend it on a trip, and one of my buddies actually just texted me a couple of days ago. He's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Hawaii during the summer?" I'm like, that sounds sweet. I would love to do something like that. Now, obviously, I need money to do that and, go on a plane, buy a plane ticket. But if, the money, if I have all this money and I don't if I don't have the friends in the relationship or the relationships around me that want to go do those things, it's worthless. If I have all this money, I'm going to spend it on what, So I don't know. I just thought that was really, really impactful, and I thought I'd share it today. But today's topic, I think, is really sweet because it applies to the new year, 2026. I've posted a couple things on my Instagram about this, but this is like a new, longer version of how to succeed this year and how to do it properly. Set up your goals for success. So I got 5 points today I'll make, and that'll be it. We can wrap it up and you guys can go about your day. So first one is making your goals boring and specific. Now, let that sink in. Boring and specific. So when I used to set up goals here in the past, especially New Year's resolutions, oh my gosh, they're always vague. They're always like, let's get fit this year. And it would just be get fit, and then it would be like something along the lines of improve my endurance or something like that. So 2 physical things. And then another one would be like read more. Just read, like just simple goals, but they don't have any like real traction. They don't have any way of measuring it. And that's where people go wrong now today, I think. So don't make your goals vague. Make them as specific as you possibly can. Get fit or be successful means nothing to your brain. It really doesn't, because that's going to sink back, way back there. And you're going to like forget about it. So instead of making your goals super vague, make them as specific as you possibly can. I'll give you an example. Some of my goals for 2026 are so specific to me, they might sound crazy to other people. Because, I'll give you an example. This one right here. Complete a 10K Spartan race under 2 hours and 30 minutes. So that's widely specific, not only because it's specific to the race I'm doing, but it's got a time limit under it. I can't exceed 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now, this is hypothetical, kind of. I don't know how long the race will take me until I'm there and I've completed it. Now, that's a goal I'm aiming for. I want to get under it. Now, the reason I put that goal so specifically is so I can shoot for it. I can time it. What I'll probably do is I'll have a stopwatch or something to really keep the pace of that race and see how I'm doing in it. But it's so specific because I want to perform well. I want to hold myself to a new standard, right? So, and the 2 hours and 30 minutes online is like apparently the average pace it takes to complete that race. So I want to be under the standard, I want to be over the standard and overperform other people that are at the average time to finish it. So that's just an example of just kind of how you want to set up your goals, because you can't be vague. You have to be so specific, because that way it sticks in your brain more and you can think about it more often and it's measurable. If you have it super vague and super, big, like don't get me wrong, big goals are important. You need big goals, but if you don't have anything to measure them with, it's pointless. So if I want to say like, I want to run a half marathon by May, you know what I mean? How are you going to measure that? Are you going to like, oh, I just want to run a half marathon. Okay, great. Now, how's your plan to get there? Are you going to be running 10 miles a week? What's the distance per week? Things like that. What's your pace looking like? How's the progression going? You need ways to measure it, and you can't be vague with it. Otherwise, you're not going to stick to it. So I'll give you another example. One of them is do well in school. Now, you might think, oh, that's not very vague, or that is very vague. Hear me out. In parentheses, it says a 3.8 GPA or higher. That's more specific. So now you have a benchmark at 3.8 GPA to put the standard at. So I have to achieve a 3.8 GPA from all my classes, either a 3.8 or higher. So again, you're meeting that standard and you're trying to exceed the standard if possible. So again, just something to keep in your mind. That's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, those are just some examples of some of my goals. I got a couple more of them, but those are just tailored to me and they're more specific so I can keep track of them. And like some other examples, like without me getting my goals involved, it could be like saving money, simple things like that. Like if you want to, save $300 a month. Okay, that's measurable. You can see in your bank statements and your bank account that you're saving X amount of money and X amount of dollars per month. Instead of saying get fit, you can go, I'm going to train 4 days a week for 45 minutes a time. That's good because that goal is measurable and it sets a standard. It sets a benchmark to where you want to be at. So that brings me to that second point, which is focus on systems, not motivation. Motivation is probably the biggest scam I feel like mentally you can go through, because at times you get this really, really massive high of motivation and you're just like, I feel like I could do anything. And it peaks right at January 1st, maybe December 31st, right on the edge. Everybody gets this surge of motivation to better themselves and keep these goals that they set for themselves, which is great. Motivation can be a great, great thing. However, it's also a big scam and it can lie to you because it comes and goes. Motivation does not stick. It could stick for a while. It could stick for a day. And if you have a failure or go through a failure, maybe that's motivation for you. And that's a good thing. But motivation, just like I said, it's kind of like a scam. You cannot rely on it. It's not sustainable. So going back to my second point there, focus on the systems. Don't focus on the motivational part. So motivation fades and systems stay consistent. You need to focus on building a solid routine, even when you don't feel like it. You need to I'll give you an example. Here's what I do. If you guys use Google Calendar, this is a great thing to do. I like to schedule my days and schedule time blocks on where I need to get things done, and it works wonders for me. Today, I literally just put all my classes in my Google Calendar, and I'm scheduling things around it, like when I work, when I need to get assignments done, when I need to go to the gym, when I need to go on my runs, like things like that. If you schedule your day and you put, same workouts at the same time every single day, if you put a study block at the same time every single day and same weekly check-ins, you're golden, because it sets a standard and it sets that tone where it's like, it's 4 or 5 o'clock. I need to go to the gym. I'm done with school. I'm done with work. That's that time block to get that done. And it sets the urgency that it's like, oh, it's this time of the day. I really need to go do this. I put it on my list and I got to cross it off. So that's just the second point. Third point is so relatable, I feel, and it's so real. Start embarrassingly small. I'm not kidding. Just do a little bit first. I'll tell you, there are people that straight up jump into a full-on training split, workout bodybuilding style, running style, and they put all this volume on them, and they're unable to meet that standard right away because either they're out of shape or it's too much for them to bring on with all the other responsibilities that they have. So it makes absolutely no sense to hop into something that you're not prepared for right off jump. You know what I mean? And I understand, you're going back to that motivational piece. You're high off of motivation. You want to get to those big moments in your training and whatever you want to do. If you're, studying for something, you hop into a big workload. So if we measure it and we start embarrassingly small, we can infinitely grow from that. And what's going to happen is over time, you'll get to that full potential. You'll get to that kind of peak performance phase of whatever you're going after, whatever goal you're setting for this year. So I think it's really important to not jump into something. Don't just go and do it. Now, you need to make a conscious decision to jump into something, but you should not jump into a high volume of work. And it's interesting because I used to be that guy. I'll tell you, back in high school, I started training, working out, lifting weights, 6 times a week, 7 times maybe. I didn't even take a rest day at all. And I was just so excited to jump into a full bodybuilding split and getting as big as possible. Honestly, I regret it because I felt, one, I was sore all the time, and I was working out sore muscles that haven't even recovered yet from the previous workouts because I just wasn't taking the rest that I needed. And it soon led to overtraining and limited progress. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting stronger. I'm not getting bigger. I'm not looking better. Things like that. That's going to happen because what I did is I hopped into a split that I was not prepared for, and I had not worked out long enough, and I had not worked out enough and had enough experience to where I could actually handle that amount of volume, that amount of workload. So before you jump into something, either you're doing a new workout split, a new routine, you're studying for something. What I'm saying is don't hop into something you're not ready for yet. You need to start small. And I'll give you this because going back to that high school example, now I'm a little bit more prepared and I understand that was a bad thing to do, right? So now with this Spartan prep and this half marathon prep I'm doing, I'm starting so embarrassingly small. Some of my friends are laughing at the mileages I'm putting on per week. I'm not kidding. They're like, "Oh, what's your," like, I have a couple friends that run, and it's like, "Oh, um, what's your easy run looking like?" I'm like, I started at like 2 miles." And he's like, that's not really a run. That's like a sprint. You know, 2 miles lasts like 15 minutes. But to me in the beginning, that stuff is hard. I haven't run for like 9, 10, maybe even 9, 10 months, a year. And I had to start small. Now, obviously the workload is getting increased now that I'm doing that more on a regular basis, and it's getting a little bit easier. But I could not hop in and start running 5 miles and act like it's nothing. I'll tell you, just recently, I ran 4 miles. And that was the hardest run of my life because I have never run 4 miles in my entire life consecutively. So, of course, the workload was a little too much. But I had to build myself up to run those four. It's not like I just ran 4 miles off jump right after the new year started. So start embarrassingly small. Start with a little bit of load and start increasing the load as things get easier. It's called progressive overload, if you haven't really seen that, but that's just in weightlifting terms. But you can apply that to any area of your life, any area. Start small and then build the volume, then build the intensity. Then you'll get to where you actually want to be. So the next one I have is expect resistance and plan for it. Life's going to interrupt you, okay? It's a guarantee. You need to plan your like bad day minimum type thing. If you're super busy at work, if you have an exam you're studying for, if you have obstacles in your way and you can't train that day, you can't work out, you can't study, you can't read, you can't do, etc. Walk 10 minutes. Just walk. Go on a walk if you can't train. Let's go on the darker side here. If somebody passes away in your life, if you experience some hard loss and you're going to a funeral or something along those lines, something bad happens to you and somebody else in your life, and you can't train, you can't do what you want to do, and you can't achieve or get or work towards that goal, make it minimal. If you can't study, read 2 pages of a book or read 2 pages of a textbook you're trying to learn for an upcoming test. If you're working a lot and you're working a lot of hours and you don't have time to work out, wake up a little earlier and do something. You don't have to do a full-on hour and a half workout, but if you get up and if you get up 5 to 10 minutes earlier and you do 5 pull-ups and 5 push-ups, you're already better than you were if you skipped anything that day and you didn't go to the gym at all. Think about it. If you just did 5 pull-ups and 5 push-ups and you ate somewhat consistently good, you're going to be actively way better than you would be if you didn't do any of that at all. Same thing with studying or, working a really hard job. An example would be if I work too many hours on the weekend and I've got an exam on Monday, I'm going to try to study a lot beforehand because I know I'm not going to be working, or I know I'm going to be working a lot. But if I'm going to bring my study stuff to work. And if I get a break on work, I'm going to study for about 30 minutes. And those little increments are going to make me better, and they're going to make you better. If I don't have time to study, read 2 to 3 pages of a book. One of my goals, another one of my 2026 goals, is read 15 books. Now, that doesn't have to apply to school or general. That's just everything, textbooks included. I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be reading a lot anyway for school, but I want to read at least 15 books of any genre. And for me, I know it's going to be hard. It was hard last year. One of my last year goals was read 10 books. And I just made it at the end of December, like the mid-December, I finished the last book. So I know 15 books is going to be a challenge. And I know if I just bring a book with me anywhere and I have some time, I can take 10 minutes or 5 minutes out of my day to read 2 pages of it. 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. You don't have to sit down for an hour and read, 50 pages of a book. You can read 2 pages a day, at least. You don't have to have a goal of reading 15 books, but if you have a goal of reading 1 book this year, just read 2 pages. Read a page per day. It's simple things that we always have this mindset of an all or nothing type way of thinking, and that's not really the case. You shouldn't really have that way, because if you think I really need to work out an hour and a half every single day, that could be a not measurable goal for you. If you're insanely busy, I understand. I'm insanely busy too. If you just measure it correctly You manage your time, you're good at time management. Doing minimal is always going to be better than doing as much as you can. It goes back to that starting embarrassingly small. If you have a goal of reading a lot this semester or this year, just start with one page and read a page if you have time. If you're standing in a line to get coffee, you can probably read a one page there if you really wanted to, you know? Instead of scrolling on your phone between classes or between meetings at work, you can just read a couple pages. Instead of watching, YouTube while you eat on a lunch break, you can read or you can update yourself on anything you want to learn about. There's just things like that. So, this kind of just leads me to my last point here. And I think it's probably the most important. We were talking about measuring goals. Okay. You cannot just jump into a hard split, jump into anything crazy, but I think the most important thing you can take away from this is tracking progress and not perfection. You don't need perfect days. Like we were talking about before, you're going to expect resistance. You need to have honest data. If I'm tracking my workouts, I'm putting how many reps I got on a certain set, on a certain exercise. And it's just honest. And you cannot lie to yourself either. It's like, how many reps did I get? 7? Okay. Put 7 down. Don't put 8 because that's not accurate. So track your workouts, track your habits, track your streaks. That's another great thing. Tracking streaks is insane for your mental health. Now I'm not talking about Snapchat streaks, okay? Not Snapchat streaks. Don't be doing that. But no, I think if you like, there's a couple apps that I use on my phone. MyFitnessPal is really good for tracking calories and nutritional intake. They track how many days you've logged, and that's like a really good thing. Apple, like the fitness app on the Apple Store, they track your steps. They track your how much you move on a daily basis, how many calories estimately you burn. I'm pretty sure that comes from the Apple Watch, but they also have that app for your phone as well. And if you keep your phone in your pocket, it'll track everything, which is really cool. But certain apps like that, if you want to download those apps, they keep streaks for you. If you hit 10,000 steps a day, they're going to keep that on there. And they're going to be like, hey, you hit your goal today. Congrats, you're 5 days in a row. And that's just going to build momentum over time. And you're just going to get continuously better at it, right? So if we go back to all those points I made, make your goal boring and specific. Some examples would be like training 4 days a week for an hour, saving some money every single month, saving $500 a month, or spending only an hour on your phone a day. Things that are measurable, things that are somewhat boring, but they're oddly specific to what you want to achieve, and they'll help you progress. Focusing on systems, not motivation. We talked about motivation fading really, really bad sometimes, but systems stay. We talked about calendars, building routines that run even when you don't feel like it. Same workout times, study blocks, weekly check-ins and stuff, as well as like planning your meetings throughout your day if you're at work, things of that nature. Starting embarrassingly small. Again, this is probably one of my favorite points to touch on. Start small, because if you start big, you're going to burn out. Okay. Most people quit because they think it's too hard, because it is, right? Because they start off too quickly. Instead of 7 workouts a week, start with 2 hours a day. Start with 20 minutes, 10 minutes each. You can literally do them in your room as like body weight stuff. So small wins, right? They build confidence, and then confidence will eventually lead to consistency. And that's where the success is. If you can do it over and over again, regardless of how you feel. And then that fourth one we talked about, expect resistance and plan for it. Like, things are going to go wrong, guys. Life interrupts you. All right. It's just going to happen. You're going to have a bad day. You're going to have bad circumstances and bad situations you're going to go through, and you can plan for those things. If things go wrong, okay. If I can't work out today, I'm going to do a walk. I'm going to do 10 push-ups. If I'm unable to, read my Bible in the morning because I overslept and I'm late for school, I'm going to bring my Bible with me and I can do it another time. Never like, if you end up blocking your day out and you plan for it, don't think that when that time passes and you're not there or you're not doing that thing that's scheduled, don't think you can't start it. That's another thing that I've noticed with myself and sometimes other people that I've talked to. They have a block, and if they miss it, like 5 minutes, let's say they have a study block or a meeting block, and they miss the meeting, they miss the study by 5 minutes. Now, first of all, if you got a meeting with somebody in 5 minutes and you're late, you're not going to cancel the meeting. You're going to show up late and you're still going to get the things done. Same thing if you're trying to study. If it's 4 o'clock and you start at 4:05, 4:08, you still should be studying, right? You're not going to cancel a meeting because somebody else is depending on you to be there. So in that same way, show up for yourself in that block time or that scheduled time that you have, that you said you were going to do something. Okay. So that's just something I want to touch on there. And then the last thing is track progress. Okay. Perfectionism doesn't exist. Okay. People try to be perfect, and that's honestly going to lead to your biggest downfall. And that's going to be your failure. You do not need to have, like, quote unquote, the perfect routine, the perfect schedule. You just need to be the best person you can that day and show up for yourself that day. You don't have to be perfect. Who are you to become, the most perfect human being in everything you do? Okay. Like, your life is not an Instagram page. The profile doesn't reflect you as a person. The Instagram and the social media, that reflects your highlights of your life. Behind the scenes, you're going to mess up, and that's okay. Everybody messes up. So perfection is not achievable, and God made it that way. Perfection is only in heaven. Okay? And we're here, and heaven does not exist on earth. As much as we all want that, it's not a great place. There are some bad things in this world. So perfection is not achievable. So let's measure our progress and let's track it. Track our workouts, our habits, our sleep, the way we eat, and track our streaks as well. We need to track what gets improved. That way we can improve upon what has already been improved upon. Alrighty, guys. That's all I had for you today. I really appreciate you guys just tuning in. It's been a blast. This one will probably be out, let's see. It's the 7th right now when I'm recording this. 11th, I believe? January 11th? No. The 10th. January 10th it should be out, or 9th, somewhere around there. But yeah, appreciate you guys just listening in. I really wish you guys well in your goals 2026. I thought this would be a really good topic to touch on just because the new year, and people say new year, new me a lot. I've heard it a lot in the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I wish you guys the best, and I'm rooting for you, truly. Alrighty, guys. God bless. I'll see you in the next one.